13.
13. And let's talk about when you ran. When did you think you were going to run, and why did you?
So I decided to run sometime early this year. I want to say it was around January where I started realizing that nobody was going to be contesting the commission seat. And Rene Garcia has done a lot in his career, but I always think that it's good to have a conversation amongst the community about what's really happening on the ground level. So that's why I decided to join into the race, because I thought there's a lot of issues in my area of Northwest Dade that we've been completely taken for granted year after year. We pay lots in taxes, but we're not seeing the fruits of our taxes.
Let's go back for a second. So you decided recently, to run, but going back farther than that, when did you say, gee, I really like this community spirit, maybe I'll get into politics, I like being involved? When did that start?
Growing up, honestly, it's something that was instilled in me from that community I'm from. I went to a school that's in my same district, Matter Lakes. They put a lot of morals into me that kind of made me who I am today in regards to wanting to be more community oriented. And being in PSN, that area in itself, it's a very big community. Yeah, because Palm Springs North.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry. It's a very community feel. Every Halloween, you see trick-or-treaters storming the roads. You see cops on each corner with water bottles to hand them out.
For people from the South, and give us the boundaries of that area.
So practically Northwest Dade would be everything practically from I-75 all the way kind of to Palmetto, but Palmetto does end and it becomes Miami Lakes. So we're kind of literally the most northwest corner of the county. To put it simple, I live 2 houses away from Broward County.
Okay. And so that's where you grew up.
I grew up actually in Hialeah, near Amelia Earhart. But practically raised there since I was 11.
So when you were little, you decided you wanted to be more involved. At what point did you have this? Was a light bulb that said, "Gee, I want to be really involved," or was it a slow progress where one day you just woke up and you said, "Hey"?
It was more of a slow progress. I don't think anybody just builds up the career one day and just says, hey, I want to be a politician, because there's a lot of things that you see wrong in the system, and there's a lot of things that you kind of have to turn a blind eye because it's not necessarily a pretty field. So, but it is something that one's innate sense to want to change things eventually does overdrive you, and you need to be the change you want to see. So that's kind of where.
Excuse me while I do this. I'm going to share this. Okay. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. So, but were there some people that were encouraging you pushing you? Not recent, but I'm talking about in your formative years. Not that we're not always formulated. All right.
I know as a kid, I was always raised to believe I can do anything I set my sights on. So I do think that's been a growing thing. But ultimately, I got more in the sense of aiming somewhere political in my corporate job, actually. A lot of folks kind of liked the way I tied in business with a sense of employee improvement. Because the way I always advised on like in the insurance industry was that if you keep your employees happy, you keep them motivated, and you wean out any problem makers, there's no reason a business cannot be successful if everyone cares for the business as much as you do. So a lot of people I spoke to along the way kind of told me, hey, these tips you keep on giving, this is something that even our government needs to hear, because there's a lot of mismanagement, misuse. Like we were just talking about, my district or my area where we live from, we paid lots in taxes.
Before you go on, I want to let people know, when people come into the building, we take their temperature, hands are clean, and then we have glass between us. When we walk through the building, we have our masks. All right. So this is a piece of glass here, right? That's there. Sometimes people think it's just a little thing. Okay. So when did you file to run for the commission seat?
In February.
In February.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic.
Pretty much.
Well, right as it was
right as it was starting to bubble up, it was something that it was difficult to deal with early on because um it's typical politicians like they like canvassing a lot, like in person. We had to do things a little bit non-conventional because of the times we were doing a lot of kind of phone call parties where we would call one person, try to get them to get their friend on the line, and we'd get like these massive calls, and that's how we would kind of do our early stage of networking.
Mhm.
And so we kind of had like enough of a base where we kind of started giving all of the volunteers a nice long list of people to call, and we started expanding like that. But um I'll be honest, COVID was a doozy for us, but I think we made a lot of legwork in that.
So here you are, February. You decide you're going to run. You file. How much is it to file?
It's $360,
Okay.
or you have to get 1% of the population's petitions and signatures, and then you have to get them verified. Like, think it's like a dime per signature, something like that.
Instead of the 300.
Yeah, instead of the 300, which I think it's honest, that's made more as a barrier than anything else, because you would think that the petition would be the more um, democratic way of doing things. Sadly, it's they put so many extra steps and ways that signatures could even get invalidated that they make the system kind of push you one way over the other.
Before we get on to the some of the issues that are at hand in your neighborhood, let's go from February to past the election.
Mhm.
All right. What are some of the things that you learned?
I learned not. Well, I think it's something we kind of all realize as we get older, that nothing's black and white. A lot of folks are interested in helping you out. However, sometimes their hands are tied. Same thing with some folks pretend to be involved and they're really not as involved as they really are, or at least seem to be. So that's kind of something that's kind of taught me to kind of stick with my gut and stick who I am, which is always going back to um, my community orientation, meaning always keep it back to the people who voted for you, keeping it back to the community. Because what I've seen for far too long is folks get elected by these communities and then forget where they're from, or forget, or kind of, I guess, fall into a different world where they lose touch with the community that's voting for them. So I guess that's one of the biggest things I've learned, which is people tend to change over time, but the most important thing is to always kind of go back to your roots and make sure you know where you're from and always represent the people who
And
elect
call
you.
your mother all the time.
Exactly. Oh,
Exa-
if you don't, at least if you have a Cuban mother, you'll hear an earful.
And that's the essence of what you say. You got to go back to those people that are important, that you're important to them, and they are important to you. Because when they give you the support, sort of like in most organizations, if they don't get feedback, if they don't get
Hmm.
some involvement, they're going to go, well, I could do this anywhere. All
Yeah.
right. Which is, yes, I want to support that, whether it's in politics, whether it's for some civic affairs or social events or in business. If you're not connected, then it goes away. And so one of the things that's happened to all of us across the world is in January, February, Zoom had like 10 million people that were members. Now they have, I don't know, a billion people, whatever it
Hmm.
is. By the way, it was not intended to do that. All right. That wasn't their original goal. So, and there are lots of organizations that haven't been able to stay together because they haven't used whatever they could to stay together. All
Hmm.
right. So, what did you do during your campaign to keep your team together so that they could connect to you and you to them?
Well, I will be quite frank with you. The majority of our team was honestly unemployed workforce. People who were typically employed, but once the whole shutdown began, a lot of them had more free time than they would have
Yes.
liked. So that was really where the sheer number of our volunteers stem from. The way we kind of had this set up was I had kind of like a community leader, so to speak, who would handle certain areas, who would kind of make sure that everyone would report in at least once or in a while. For example, I had one of my aunts, Nidia, in a community in her nursing home, who was practically making sure all her other friends were calling her fellow friends too, and all her family members making sure that they knew that they had to either vote for me or whatever it may be. So that's kind of how we stayed connected. It was, to so to speak, I want to say even a lot of my volunteers were extended family too, because if you're Cuban, at least everyone's your uncle, everyone's your cousin. So
I always wondered about that. Hey, cuz.
hey guys,
Right?
exactly. It's something that it's part of who we are. So it's something that I think also kind of shaped a bit of my volunteer group, because a lot of people were close to me, and then they would bring their close friends as
There's
well.
a commercial years ago, I think it was for Clairol at one of them, that showed a woman. So you're going to tell their friends and their friends and their friends, and all of a sudden the TV screen started out with one, and then it looked like a Zoom meeting. You know,
Hmm.
this is 25 or 30 years ago, with 100 people there. So certainly that is a way to keep people involved. So let's skip over. So now that it's that you ran and it's over, all right? Are you a better person because you filed and you ran?
I think so. I'm a lot wiser of how the system works. I'm a lot wiser on how there's barriers to stop people like me from getting more involved. Which I think I mentioned to you last time. One of the things I'm working on is trying to get other folks involved too. We have a lot of good community leaders, a lot of young folks who have great ideas, a lot of retired firefighters and cops who would be great elected officials, but they don't know how the system is, so they're afraid of getting into it. So right now, kind of what I'm doing is I'm working with some of them and telling them, hey, this isn't unachievable. I can help you set up so you can run yourself.
And that's a very good thing where you've done some things you didn't win yet, but I'm sure that at some point, if you continue, that's going to happen. Is to show people the path, because that's what people
Hmm.
want. How do I get over there? In the old days, the guys wouldn't do it, but the wives would make us stop at the gas station. How do you get to the corner? Then there was a map, all right, and now there's Google Maps. You say you get on this road, and this is what you do in order
Hmm.
to get over there. And there are a lot of people that are itching for that direction, and uh, there were some classes that were being offered. I think Katie Sorensen, former county commissioner, I forget the name of the class she was doing at the University of Miami, where it was for candidates so they could see the road. A
Hmm.
lot of people, it's there. They just haven't been able to verbalize it yet.
It honestly comes down to that, the lack of representation in our area. My zip
Who was
code,
the commissioner before?
Esteban Bovo.
Okay.
My area has been, I want to say, neglected for far too many years. I've lived there well over 10 years, and in over those 10 years, I haven't seen much change. Our streets continue to get destroyed, and instead of doing actual repairs, they come and waste money with pothole fixes that come up every single time it rains. So at some point, any logical person starts adding up the math. It's like, how much does it cost them to come and pay and just fill up this hole every time it rains? So we're talking about that same hole, from when I first recall it, back when I was in high school. It used to be no bigger than like 6 inches. It's nearly about 3 feet wide now. Every when it springs up, and it's this that lack of change, the fact that that's pothole still, the only thing that's changing is the pothole gets bigger and bigger. And I see that and I'm like, that's a concern for the county. Anybody has an accident there, anybody loses their life because this hole is big enough where your car will might just fall into it.
Yep.
So so when will it get repaired? When someone loses their life and the county gets sued? Why does it have to take to that? Why can't we invest in our community and prevent somebody's injury? And this is kind of where I come from, where it's like I see so many little things that don't really take too much to fix, and if they were to fix them, they'd prevent a lot of future
So,
expenses.
so there's sometimes, not all the times, that the leaders don't want to be bothered with being on a hunt to find the
Mhm.
stuff that needs to be done. And it's really the people that are out there that live that see it every day, all right, that know the problems. So maybe there's a county committee
Mhm.
or in that district, and it's Renee Garcia is the commissioner. That was the person that you ran
Yep.
against. It was an open seat.
Mhm.
Steve Bovo ran for mayor of Miami-Dade County after serving quite successfully for many years for the county, and before that he was state representative, and he was on the Hialeah City Council. He's also the chairman, I think it's called there. Um, so there are lots of community leaders within an area that say, hey, whoever is next in charge, here's a list of 25 things that need to be done. A great example, and I live in horse country, is Commissioner Javier Soto. We would call him the mayor of the area, even though he's former senator, but he's a county commissioner, because he drives those streets. He
Mhm.
goes up and downs with Public Works,
Mhm.
and he points out here, here, here. He's been doing that for years. He's been out representing that area for since '93, and so he's way on, very much on top of that. And then he has people that also do that. So, what is it that you're going to do or want to do so that where you live and where your friends and your neighbors live, and you have a better experience in that district?
Well, realistically, I'd love to incorporate our zip code. I think PSN should become its own municipality, considering the fact that as is, we're not really being taken care of by Miami Lakes, considering Miami Lakes is its own town. And we're under technically Hialeah, but Hialeah barely works for itself, so let alone
So
works
you
for our
on
part of the woods.
what do you border on one side? What is that? Miami Lakes on one side?
So we have Miami Lakes on our southern side.
Okay.
To our west, we have incorporated Hialeah, and to our east, we have Miami Gardens.
All right. So I know the county right now is not very pro incorporation, especially they have a few other things they need to be concerned with,
Hmm.
COVID related and everything else. And I'm not sure annexation would probably be a whole lot easier
Hmm.
than to form a city. And I'm not suggesting you do that, but certainly that's an idea to have in your uh, your pot
Hmm.
and to do that. Uh, I think it's admirable that you're thinking about that. It really says we want to have more. All right. And
Hmm.
but what about talking to the new commissioner Garcia and say, hey, listen, I know I ran against
Hmm.
you. All right, but we really need some help out here because his district is how many people?
His district is
It's 150,000 people.
yeah,
And
way more.
right, all right. And so this area, Palm Springs North, is that
Mhm.
what we refer to it as?
That's kind of what I refer, at least PSN at what it is right now. If I were to be able to incorporate it, a lot of people have expressed aptitude to taking in the name PSN, Palm Springs North. So that would be ideal name for that entire little area.
So I know it takes several years for
Hmm.
incorporation to take place. That's once it gets to that level,
Hmm.
but it all starts with an idea. I have
Exactly.
no idea, it ain't ever going to happen, right?
Hmm.
And we know that hopefully that the vaccine is going to be available to everybody, certainly by summer. And I don't know how long it's going to take the county to recover financially, all right? And the incorporation movement typically was more of, uh, gee, wouldn't it be great, all right?
Hmm.
Sort of like dessert, all right?
Hmm.
Um, so I urge you to do whatever it is that you want to do and to find a team, all right, that
Hmm.
can help you do that. Um, but what are name like a half a dozen things that you would like to see done in PSN?
For one, I definitely think we need to improve the streets there. Our streets have, like I said, they're riddled with potholes. I also think they need to invest a little bit more in the parks we have in our area. We only really have one decent park, which is the one right next to to Palm Springs North, next to the school. But we also have other, I believe Spanish Lakes Park, which is literally just grass. I'd like to see a bit more funding into that. I see our community constantly walking all around there, but there's really nothing else to do besides walk. There's a lot of small little things that they can be doing. I also think, um, I believe we have a bit of an issue in policing in our area. I know response times are kind of a bit on the higher end, even from personal experience.
That's one of the
Myself.
advantages, by the way, of having a city. All
Hmm.
right, is that typically the response is a lot faster. All right, and Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, Cutler Bay, South Miami.
Hmm.
We're here in South Miami on 62nd Avenue. Police station happens to be nearby, but it's usually 45 seconds to 90 seconds if I call the police. And
Yeah.
I've got that is so good, right? It's just sometimes I'm thinking about calling. No, 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 because they will come out and they will be at your front door, right, in a moment. So here's my suggestion as far as the potholes.
Hmm.
there's that old saying. Sorry, Commissioner. The squeaky wheel gets oil. Start taking pictures of the potholes.
Oh, I have categorized.
Okay, that's perfect. And have you been able to set? Who do you send those to say, hey, listen, this is my name, and here's what we're saying. I'm going through the neighborhood.
So typically, I believe the Miami-Dade County has an actual area where you can report areas that have cracked streets or
Is it
areas that need.
311?
I believe
The
it's part of the
311,
311,
or is it
but
2 or 2-1? Whatever. Okay.
what I've kind of come to notice is that they don't really do the necessary work. Where they just patch things up, kind of like we mentioned originally. The 6 inch in diameter pothole is now almost 3-4 feet wide. I've even recently been calling about a tree cutting right near my house that's over an intersection. I'm afraid this palm tree it's currently splitting is gonna fall. I've called already a couple times. We haven't seen anybody come and cut it. I probably this weekend I'm gonna get a chainsaw and cut it down because it's a public safety risk. At any moment, this palm could fall, and it's not
And
being.
I know you know this. If you document all this stuff, that as you start talking to people, they're going to
Mhm.
go, "This guy's serious." Here are the 10 things he's been working on. All right, he's notified us. All right, several times on each one, and that puts the pressure on folks to do the right thing, whatever that happens to be. And what else would you like to see done in Palm Springs?
I'd like to see more promotion of local business. So something I really liked about Miami Lakes is the fact that they do promote their local businesses. They really try to help out everyone who is in Miami Lakes. I'd like to see that in my area too. We don't have that much. We don't have really that much local business, and I think it's really from a lack of supporting the local businesses there. I feel like it's been given. Our community is kind of just assumed as a residential area when there's actually quite a lot of employers who and quite a good amount of workforce who work in our
Why
area.
would you think that the county, are you saying the county should promote the businesses?
Well, in reality, I think the county should promote all local businesses within Miami-Dade County, but specifically the fact that the businesses in our area are even more neglected than I want to say in other areas where they might get a little bit more of assistance more readily available, and it's because of where that area we're kind of in. Hence, why I kind of want to give them more of a voice in our community.
Miami Lakes, I'm sure you're quite familiar with the origination of it, and with the Graham family and the shopping centers they own
Hmm.
and the property that's there. And they still have a newspaper there, I think, a Miami Laker, I
Hmm.
think. And that is one of the few exceptions in the county and in the cities where it behooves the landowners, which most of the some of the Graham family, to make sure that the businesses are doing well as much as they can. Certainly, the smaller cities have a tougher time doing that, but there is COVID money, and if you wanted to get behind something like that, I'm sure you could do that. And you speak to your representative and say, "Hey, listen, we have 100 businesses out here, all right, and we need some help, all right. What can we do to get some of the government money?" I can tell you that the Doral Chamber, run by Manny Sarmiento, he's very active in trying to help the businesses out there by putting on the newsletters and on his website all the different government agencies that have money for small business. So that's certainly an angle to try to help the people that are there. So, um, what else? What else would you like to see there?
Honestly, the list just goes on and on. I'd like to see also. I'd like to see a bit of improvements in our schools in the area. I know I came from Matter Lakes. It's a school that has been growing, and I commend
Is
it. But
that who is the new school board member? Is it Christy?
oh,
No,
I can't remember for the life of me right now.
but all right. By the way, tomorrow, Thursday,
Mhm.
is that 10 o'clock, Tommy, with Marta Perez?
Yep.
All right, a school board member. That's
Mhm.
not her district, but you might want to look it up and then see who it is, and we'll be glad to help you with it from the school board. Which is, hey, listen, guys, here's what we want to do with the school board. And I know that everybody is stressed right now, but in 6 or 8 months, it's going to be a lot different. It'll be more back to some whatever normal is
Mhm.
going to be. I know that everybody's praying to get through to June, where we can take off for 2 months. Um, and I'm glad you're pushing through the COVID experience, because lots of people that have stopped
Mhm.
because they thought it was going to go away in a month or two. Right,
Yeah, we're still dealing with this.
right. And so, what would you personally like you go out and do yourself and get a team to do that could be notable to help other people?
Well, right now I'm primarily trying to focus on making an organization, so to speak, which I lightly mentioned on earlier, which is giving a voice and helping candidates, possible candidates, get into that political field, or starting to help them with the steps that it would take to start running an election, a candidacy for office, because I think that's really the biggest thing. If there's anything I've noted from even myself running, is that even just someone saying a couple of ideas, it sticks. Nobody's going to deny a bad idea. So if we can get more people to voice their concerns in a higher platform and run for office, not only are we going to be securing people from our community in these positions, but we're also getting the issues directly from the source, and we're voicing them in a media or on a platform that others now have to kind of give a response to, so to speak. For example, I believe it was part of my campaign was to highlight the focus on blasting in Northwest Miami-Dade. I think we did a really good job. I see now at least an article almost every month talking about the blasting in our area. This wasn't a thing that used to happen before. This was something that we were continuously ignored because it wasn't something they could fix. But because of my voice, because of others' voices who's been elevated as well, we've put a spotlight on this. And
So,
it's no longer an easy get out of jail free card just to avoid the topic. Now people have to go on the record and talk about it.
so did you start a website concerning this?
No, but there's already a group that handles a lot of the organizing for the blasting.
Yeah.
It's called No More Blasting by, I believe it's Miguel Martinez. He's on the Miami Lakes Advisory Board for blasting as well. Great guy, tons of information. He's putting up a good fight.
So one of the things that you might want to do to try to, we have 2 minutes left, Adrian. So one of the things you might want to do is figure out if you want to put together a video with an elected person or somebody who used to be in office, and mapping out the different steps to take, and to create a newsletter that you would send out to people, right? Because that's one of the ways to find more people. Um, and I would suggest you do that. And if you haven't, figure out who that right person is. The really neat advantage with term limits now, it
Hmm.
used to be none of the sitting commissioners really wanted to train you because it's trained to replace them. Uh, but now there's an 8-year limit, right,
Hmm.
on that. So I would go to some past commissioners, and that area would be good, or maybe some people that do this on a regular basis, which is help train people or to talk to people to see if they have any interest in running for office, because we know in 2 years from now there's another election. Won't be
Hmm.
like this one, but that has to wait for 4 years.
Yeah.
But there's another election coming up in a couple of years. Do you have, by the way, a community council? In
Um, so that was something that I do have to go and speak with Renee one of these days, because actually the area that I'm in, there is a vacant community councilwoman seat. Um, Originally, I was planning on running for that, but decided to run for the commissioner's race instead because of the lack of actual competition there.
so each of the maybe he could appoint you to that.
Yep,
All right.
that's something that I've been meaning to
Well, you
discuss
should.
with him.
I don't have his phone number. You should call him today. Hey, listen, remember me? All right, who are you? And you're going to tell him. Say, listen, I would, if you can appoint me, all right, that would be great. Might, all right, and you gain a lot of experience with that. And Adrian, we're going to have to wrap up here, but I want you to look into that camera there, and I want you to think about that 15 to 18-year-old person that's sitting out there, and talk to them about their future.
Um, I want to tell you, anything is honestly possible. The only thing that stops anyone in this life is themselves. No circumstances are ever gonna limit you from doing what you truly want to do. as long as you really have the desire to continue pushing forward and fight for what you want. I've been seeking to be the change I want to see, and here I am, and I'm going to continue doing so, and I'm going to be helping others try to do so as well. So if I can do it, there's no reason you can't.
You just mentioned about being the change you want to see. Who is that from?
No clue. It's just something that always stuck with me.
Well, there's something very close to that. When it's a couple people said hi, Carl Johnson, Eric Reedon, Daniel, I'll get it right, Cajun, Danny Lynn, sorry, Danny, Freddie Delgado, Levi Meyer. They'll say hello. Again, I want to thank you, Adrian Jesus Jimenez, former candidate for county commission. He is now a civic activist. We wish you lots of good luck.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Michael.
And appreciate you guys joining us. And Tommy, thank you very much for producing the show. Have a great day, folks.
Have a good